The NCAA is based off of the rule of amateurism, which states that student athletes are students first. This means that the athletes don't get a salary for participating in athletics, they can't play with professionals, they can't get benefits from agents or prospective agents. What this does not state is that being a student athlete in the NCAA, you do not get to live and do the things that a student regularly would. Division I student athletes should be compensated for all of the revenue they generate. For my indictment speech, first I talked about how being a student athlete is a full-time job. The NCAA is rigged so that they are the only real winner in college athletics. They take these student athletes and put them on television and sell items to make themselves money, but barely allow these students to make their own. A student at the University of Central Florida loves to create YouTube videos, and people love to see the videos he makes. He has had a lot of people subscribe to his videos. Everyone loves them, except for the NCAA. The student, Donald De La Haye, is a kicker for the football team, and the NCAA is trying to take away his eligibility because he has a chance to make money from the videos he makes. Now, what is so wrong with this student living like a normal student would actually get to? It does say in the rules that student athletes are students first, so I don't see the problem. If they aren't going to allow these student athletes to live like students, then they better find a way to compensate them. The question that people bring up when the talk of compensation comes into play is, how are we going to pay every single student athlete? Well, it's easy. You give everybody a piece of the money. They deserve it after everything they do. Put a little extra money in their scholarships and give them enough money to live off of at least. As Dennis Johnson stated in an article on paying college athletes in 2013, assuming that the education itself, along with the opportunities and athletic department support, is payment enough, is assuming that those expectations are realistic and not just ideal. When people say that scholarships are pay enough, I do not believe that they consider everything that these students go through. They have to try and balance school, their sport, workouts, and all of this stuff. So when do they get to actually live like an actual student and get a job? Like I said earlier, in the rules of amateurism, it says that students must act as students first. Richard Burton stated in an article about college athletes are paid with their education in 2013 that this logic is extremely flawed for many of the reasons discussed earlier. The athletes cannot get the same value out of the education because of the already intense time commitment to the sport that has given them the opportunity to be in school. The idea that a college education is payment would have to assume that a college degree always pays off in the long run. If you think about it, the NCAA is kind of like the cartel. They sit back and let these students do all the heavy lifting and make them money, and in return these student athletes get pretty close to nothing. Yes, some may say they get their schooling paid for, but for the amount of money these sports bring in, they should have some kind of payment. Like I said, if they add in some money to their scholarships for a payment, it would still count for the same thing. My second indictment talked about how these student athletes can't make their own money. It doesn't help that on top of all of the school and workouts and practices, they have to find a way to make their own money. And they have to find jobs, pretty much, because any other way they make money is probably going to violate some sort of NCAA rule. And trying to find a job with the schedules that these students have is almost impossible. It's pretty tough. Student athletes are working a full-time job. They put in around 40 hours a week, if not more, with school and sports. So why should they have to get a part-time job just to have a little bit of money on hand? The NCAA needs to fix the amateurism rule, because if they aren't going to allow these student athletes to live like any other student, they aren't going to exist very much longer. This would be a big problem for them. A bigger problem than actually having to pay students. They need to sit down and think about the business they are running, because the student athletes are going to catch on sooner or later, and not everybody's going to want to put up with what they're doing. Mark Edelman stated in the article 21 Reasons Why Student Athletes Are Employees that Division I football and men's basketball players do not merely play a sport of leisure. Rather, they are core members of their university's marketing team, as well as the labor force behind a lucrative secondary industry in hosting organized sporting events. Now, if you think about it, this could be a total cash-in for the NCAA also. When the compensation starts going out to these athletes, they could start marketing these players and athletes more than they already are. They could bring back the NCAA video games with the players' actual names and all of that stuff and sell jerseys and t-shirts with players' names and any other memorabilia that they want. This is a win-win situation for the NCAA. They really need to have a meeting and discuss the opportunities of this and what could happen if they don't. In conclusion, Division I student athletes should be compensated for the amount of revenue they generate. They put in the hours of an average American work week. They are the people that fill the stands and stadiums full of people and get close to nothing in return. The NCAA is rigged and needs to have some work done before they don't exist anymore. Thank you.